Good day, everyone. Today I would like to share with you a Python automation project. It's a CLI I made to help with the drafting of external confirmation requests that will be used in an audit. Now, I'm an auditor, so this has been personally very helpful to me and has saved me countless hours. And drafting of the confirmation request is pretty tedious, mind-numbing task. So this has definitely helped me out a lot in kind of automating a pretty boring and repetitive process that I used to have to do manually. So first we're going to go over the structure of the program real quick. We got this source file directory in our root directory. And we have this main file that we're looking at right now. This is where we instantiate the CLI. And you can see it there in the project directory. Let me just show you in the terminal how the CLI works real quick. And this is going to give us an idea of what kind of options we have. We're going to use mail merge to take Word templates and map CSV data to them. We're going to convert those to PDF, and then we can consolidate by respondent. So we get one PDF in the end. And here's the functions directory in the merge module. This is where I have all the logic that's actually being executed when we use the CLI. All right, so what we're going to need for this is we're going to need a Word document that has merge fields and a CSV file. So let me just show you a fictional kind of confirmation request we got here in Word. And these little fields that you can see that I'm highlighting, these are merge fields. This is what's going to get mapped onto from the CSV file. So in the CSV, there's going to be headers for each of these little merge fields, and that's going to get mapped directly onto this template when we execute the program. So now I could show you what one of those CSVs looks like. Now, maybe like for this particular example, this could be like loans, if we're confirming loans. So you can see we got like maturity, principal, commitment, and dates. So before we go into the project, I would just like to give a bit of context related to how this fits into an audit. So we have ISA 505. This is the International Standards on Auditing for external confirmations. This is just going to kind of establish how we're supposed to go about getting written responses from independent third parties when we're corroborating these management assertions. Now, there's going to be a few things that are relevant here, and this is going to give you a bit of summary of the ISA, but we're supposed to maintain control when we're designing these confirmations, right? It's not management who's designing it, it's us. We're going to get a positive or negative response, positive being they're going to agree or disagree with what we've asked them to confirm. Negative, they're only going to respond to us if they are not in agreement. But here's where you can kind of see the actual ISA online. So now I want to show you what the program actually does. The first thing we're going to do is demonstrate the mail merge functionality, where we take those Word templates and map all the CSV data onto them for the unique confirmations. So let me just show you in the CLI right here. It's going to ask us for a file path for the output, and it's going to continuously prompt us until we give it a valid directory. So I just gave it some garbage input there. It's not going to work. So let's create a folder where we can store all our confirmations. Now I'm going to pass this to the CLI. And now it's going to ask us for a CSV file. Same deal, it's going to keep prompting us until we can give it one. So I'll just show you with a Word document here that it's not going to work. We do need to give it a CSV file. Okay, so now let's actually pass a valid CSV. And now it's going to ask us for the Word template. So just showing you that the test folder is currently empty, and now we're going to pass the Word template. So now that test folder is going to have all our confirmation drafts. We can open up one here. And here we go. Now you could see that the data has been mapped onto those merge fields that we took a look at earlier. So the next part of the program is going to be taking all those Word documents that we just made and converting them to PDF. So let's just go back to our CLI here, take a look at what we have. It's the PDF option we have here. Like it says, converts them all into PDFs. So let's just call it real quick. Little typo. All right, so now we're going to pass it that folder that we just filled with all the Word documents. I'm going to pass this as an argument, and it's going to convert them all to PDF. So when we execute it, there's a little loading bar. So it's finished. So now we're going to be able to take a look at that folder, and now we see a new folder has been created, and it has all the PDFs. So we can open one of these up and take a look. Here we go. You can see that it's been converted to a PDF now. All right, so the last part of the CLI is how we consolidate all the PDFs that we've made into one document. So one thing that you'll notice is sometimes there'll be multiple requests for the same person. We don't want to send them separately. We're just going to send them as one. So you can see here, there's 3 for Bob, for example. We want to have one file for Bob. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our consolidate option in our CLI. We're going to pass that PDF folder that we just made. We're going to pass that as argument. And now that this is executed, we're going to take a look into that folder now. We're going to see there's been a new folder that's been created. And when we look into it, there's just going to be one file for Bob as opposed to 3. So we can take a look. We could see, compared to the original, that they've all been consolidated into one PDF file. So I just want to demonstrate with a different example how this could be useful. So the way the program is made, it's dynamic. As long as you're giving it a Word template with a CSV with matching headers, it's going to map to it. So it doesn't have to be the one we just used. So I could show you another example of a different template we have. And in this template, there's going to be different merge fields. So if we tried to pass the data from the first example, it wouldn't map. So now let's make a new folder where we can store the output for this run. And you can see it's empty. We're going to pass it as argument to our CLI like we did before. So I'm going to give it that folder. Now we got to give it our template and CSV. So now we can take a look. We're going to see that we have all our confirmations drafted. And you can see how this could get really helpful, especially when you're doing a large volume of these. Let's just take a look at one of them. Then we're going to do the same, how we convert these all to PDFs. So now let's just pass it that folder. You can see how quickly this goes through them compared to how I used to do it when I had to do it manually. It's night and day. So now we have a folder full of all our PDFs. And so we can pass this as argument to the final command, being the consolidation. And now when we take a look into that folder, we see that they've all been consolidated. In this case, almost all of them. I think all of them actually did have multiples, so they all did some consolidation. So we take a look at this one. We could see all the files that are relevant to this respondent have been consolidated into one. The last thing I want to go over is just an overview of some of the code. So the first thing we're going to see, if you're familiar with argparse, this is how we're creating our CLI. So what we're going to have is this argument parser object, and then we're going to call the add argument method to it. So we could start adding arguments to our CLI. And let me just show you in the CLI. So you can kind of see how this code is going to show up in the terminal. And then so it's going to get executed in this conditional block, depending on the argument which we pass. So the actual logic that gets executed when one of those arguments is shown is here, and this is how we get our file path, just this kind of while loop that's going to continuously prompt the user until we get a valid path. Now, using the mail merge package, we import this mail merge object. This is how we're going to do the mail merge. So we're going to parse like the merge fields, and then we're going to iterate through the CSV file. So we're going to dynamically generate this dictionary that's going to map the merge fields from the Word template to the headers of the CSV file, and we can unpack it when we call merge, and that's how we're going to get each individual template. So you can just kind of see here how we're making that dictionary using this comprehension. And that kind of get merge fields this is something that's going to be included from the package that we imported. And again, that's just how we parse out the actual merge fields that we showed earlier in our template. So the next thing we're going to look at is the converting the words to PDF. Now, we imported some code from docx to PDF, and that's how we're going to do the convert with this convert function that we import. Same deal, we have a while loop to kind of get the expected path that we're looking for. We're going to create a new file path for this output, and then once all that's done, we're just going to pass it all to the convert function. So to populate that directory that we created with the PDF versions of the Word documents that we drafted. So last thing we're going to do is consolidate all of them. That's going to be also imported from PyPDF2. We take the PDF merger object, and that's how we're going to consolidate. Again, same while loop to kind of get the path we want. So the way this one works though is we're going to iterate through the file and the directory. And for each file, we're going to iterate again through the directory, and we're going to parse out the ending being the name like we saw earlier, like Bob. And then we can create a list, and we're going to append to that list as we're iterating through. Every time it matches that suffix of the file. So in the end, we'll have a Python list with all the files in a directory which have the same suffix. And then we can pass that onto this function that we wrote. And we'll take a look at the merge PDFs function. And that's just using that code that we imported, PDF merger, and how we can merge all the files in a list together. But that was my project. Thank you very much. And if you have any feedback you'd like to share, please don't hesitate and share it with me. Thank you very much.